1934 and 1938 World Cup finals, there was no first round group stage. It was straight knockout. Straight knockout all the way from the first round right through to the final. 1950 World Cup finals, there was no semi-finals and final. They took the last 4 remaining teams and they put them in a 4-team group to decide who was going to finish gold, silver, bronze and in 4th place. 1974 and 1978 World Cup finals, there was no semi-finals. There was no semis in that. It was just a second round group stage of 2 groups of 4 teams, and the top team from each group went straight into the final. They had second round group stage in the 1982 World Cup as well, but there was more nations taking part. They'd expanded the tournament. Can you imagine? They'd expanded the tournament. By that point in time, they expanded the size of the finals, so you did get semi-finals as well as the final in 1982, despite having a second round group stage. And in 2026, there's a last 32. There's a round of 32. And after that, it's last 16, quarter-final, semi-final, final, or straight knockout from the last 32 onwards. But they've already had a group stage, a first-round group stage, 12 groups of 4 teams each. It's always changing. It's always changing, and it's never really been the same format. When I was the first World Cup, I remember 1978, there was 16 teams in that. Then 1982, they expanded it to 24 teams. 1998 in France, they expanded it to 32 teams. That's too clunky. That's too many countries. That's just not going to work at all, is it? And here we are in 2026. They've expanded it to 48 teams, and it's just more addictive than ever. It's abusive. The World Cup finals are abusive. Doesn't matter how horrible the regime that's in charge. It's always horrible regimes in charge. America, USA, greatest country in the world, but just the people, the kleptomaniacs, so the kleptocrats that they've got, kleptomaniacs as well, plutocrats, whatever, just absolute scumbags, putting Gestapo, basically ICE or just Gestapo out in the street, murdering people who are the wrong colour or the wrong inclinations or whatever like that. They're horrendous, but that's not the States. That's not what USA is all about. No, I go to USA as often as I possibly can in my life. I go over there on holiday plenty of times just because it's tremendous. But it's Pinochet's Chile in 1962, Mussolini's Italy in 1934, the horrible, murderous, tortuous junta in Argentina in 1978, and Qatar, Putin's Russia 2018. Jesus Christ, one of the most horrible countries, and it's a world terrorist, really, Putin's Russia. And then you've got Qatar. Should never have got anywhere near Qatar. Apart from anything else, it's the size of the place. It's half the size of Wales. Qatar, the actual landmass to be staging like a 32-team World Cup. They'd probably try to get a 48-team World Cup in there if they'd offered a bit more money this time as well, Qatar. But in it goes, and it has the greatest match of all time. Arguably the greatest match of all time, certainly the greatest World Cup final. In the World Cup final is the number 1 match in world football history, and that's France and Argentina. They have this unbelievable game in which Mbappe and Messi are sealing their legends, and it's legends. And a goal-scoring game, a magical game, of the overspill of that, the fallout from that, it's carried on. The ramifications have continued straight into this World Cup with Mbappe and Messi on addictive levels of goal-scoring, the like of which we have never seen, and I will go on to prove that in this podcast. And that's all stemming from that final like 3.5 years ago. It's as if it was like last week, and they've just carried on in the same vein, had a few days in the house to themselves, and then bang, back into it as this World Cup is kicked off in the USA, Canada and Mexico. We're not even going to go at the regimes there, whoever's in charge of those countries, of course, and they're playing a massive, brilliant role in this World Cup. But it's leading to stuff like last night. I end up binning the Spain against Austria game because there's just not enough time. I've got holidays. I'm supposed to be going on my holidays, and it's just, I'm almost getting to the point where I don't want to go on holiday because I'm going to miss World Cup. But even if you're not going on holiday, even if you are off every day of the week, if you don't have a job, if you're a millionaire, you'd be struggling to find the time to watch all the games. It's not just an extra week of a tournament. It's the extra games. It was 40 odd extra games are getting played from the last World Cup and this World Cup. And I'm watching maybe 2 live games in a night if I'm lucky. And then the next day I get up and I've got 3 games. I just record the series, record series button on ITV and on BBC. And the next day I'll go up and there's 3 games. I've had to spend about an hour just fast forwarding. I go into the BBC Sports app and I look at the times of the goals, and you get a quick glean quickly the major incidents, what time they occurred. So I mean, watching just fast forwarding right through Portugal against Croatia, phenomenal game. It's got everything you want in it. Portugal against Croatia. Modric, is it going to be his last game? Is it going to be Ronaldo's last game? Certainly in the World Cup, maybe ever. Probably 2 of them. Certainly Ronaldo should retire, and it's in Toronto, and a massive Portuguese, but the cult feeling for when Ronaldo scores, the noise that's been made in one of the smaller stadiums of this World Cup, it's deafening. And of course, the BBC have actually decided to be at this. The BBC coverage is shocking when it comes to the proper late night games. You've also got Switzerland. You get what I'm talking about. You get these things like Switzerland have won their first knockout game at a World Cup for, is it 88 years? The commentators telling us after they beat Algeria 2-0. Nice stuff for Switzerland, beating Algeria 2-0 in their round of 32 game in Vancouver. That one took place. But it's like, it's won their first knockout game at World Cup for 88 years. That's amazing. But if you go back, as I've just said, 1938 World Cup, that is, well, they won a knockout game, but it was the first round. So they're winning a round of 32 game here. They've got through a 4-team group. They've got past 3 other teams. And then they've got this game against Algeria, and they've won that as well. So they're not kind of winning run. But, for example, 1954, Switzerland hosted the World Cup, and they got to the quarterfinals. But you're given the impression that because you would, in 1954, there's only 16 teams at the World Cup, Scotland's first World Cup, 1954, in Switzerland. So they get through their groups, they go straight into the quarterfinals, and they lost that. And for decades, that was the worst ever performance by a host at a World Cup by Switzerland in 54. Until I think South Africa in 2010 didn't get out of the group. But it's just, you get the wrong impression. You think, oh, Switzerland must have had a shock in World Cup history. But back in 1938, when they did last win a knockout game, it was just because the first round was knockout. And it was a replay. They had replays in France 38. And it was Germany, and it was Greater Germany, a Germany combining. The Anschluss had taken place. It was Nazi Germany. They were beaten after a replay in Paris, both games in Paris. Switzerland's a couple of replays in the World Cup finals back in the 1930s. These are the kind of things that would go on, but how the format's continually changing, and you get Austria against Spain last night. They're saying the same stuff about Austria. They haven't won a knockout match at the World Cup since 1954, basically the same World Cup. So it's 1954, the Switzerland World Cup, and that is true. And Austria ended up finishing third in that World Cup. They beat Uruguay, I think, in the bronze medal match. But they'd lost 6-1 to the great. If you've seen Das Wunder von Bern, the film version of, well, basically the fairy tale that is West Germany winning the 1954 World Cup to create a kind of national spiritual recovery from their defeat in the Second World War, and the country having to rebuild itself after the Second World War, and the shame of the Second World War, the shame of Nazi Germany and all that, and then they go and they win the World Cup final, and they're 2-0 down to Hungary, who haven't lost a game in 4 years and wouldn't lose another game for another 2 years, and they're just considered an unbeatable team. They're 2-0 down after 8 minutes, and they come back and they beat them 3-2, and it's that strip just up there behind me there, which I was getting all my Germany stuff out, because I thought my first team's at the World Cup. Scotland are at the World Cup. I've got the tartan stuff, all the dark blue stuff up behind me for most of the pods I've been doing at the World Cup. With Scotland, now Scotland are out. I'll go to my second team. I've got my backup team, You meet Kilmarnock fans, Dunfermline fans, St Johnstone fans, they're all in your face about being a big glory hunter. If you support Rangers, you support Celtic. It's just a glory hunter, just glory hunters. But you'll find that they all have second teams. They all have a second team, and it'll usually be Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, and maybe Real Madrid or Barcelona. It'll be somebody pretty massive who wins most of their games. You're like, aye, mate, you need it the same way I do. Well, I'm the same in international football. It's not support the German like the Germans. I've got a thing with Germany, so I deck this in my Germany bunting, and they're out already. They're gone as well in this mad World Cup. But this guy was. I was talking about Switzerland, and I was talking about Austria, how they had been. So they beat Germany. Germany beat them 6-1 in the 1954 World Cup semi-final, and at that point in time, Austria were considered the real masters of football, particularly in that little derby, the Teutonic stuff. So Germany turned around and leathered them 6-1. It's a seminal moment, almost as significant in German football history as them actually winning the final. But if you watch the film version, you'll probably get it on Prime or something like that. I've got it in DVD. I've watched it a million times. Das Wunder von Bern, the film version of it, that's the best scene in the whole film, is when they beat Austria 6-1, because they've got the Austrian radio commentary, the actual commentary from the game, and don't show you any footage. They don't try to, they redo a lot of the footage, recreate it. It's actors and all that, but they don't show you any footage of the game, but they just play it over. It's wee boys that are just growing up, because they're innocent. they weren't around when the war started. They were all born maybe during the Second World War, but they didn't take part in it, like their dads and all that. And they don't have anything to feel guilty about, so they're just living in this really run-down Germany. There's lots of bomb sites and what have you. Lots of big spaces where there used to be houses, and that's where they've got this ramshackle, homemade, a couple of sets of goalposts that they're playing football amongst themselves. And these wee boys playing football, they play over that, the commentary of Austria getting absolutely roasted by Germany in the 1954 World Cup semi-final 6-1. So you should have a watch at that. That's the best scene in the whole film. Very emotional. But and so obviously Austria had won their quarter-final in the 1954. That's the last time on a knockout game. But again, that's disingenuous because Austria in the 1978 and 1982 World Cup finals got out their first round group. They got into it was a second round group stage, so that's not considered knockout football. I think they're in the same group as Billy Bingham's Northern Ireland, along with France in 1982, the second round group stage. I seem to remember cheering on Northern Ireland after Scotland went out in that World Cup. I'm sure they drew 2-2 with Austria. Did Billy Bingham's Northern Ireland in the Manzanares. I think it was Atletico Madrid's ground. Those games were played. Anyway, so it was a bit that Austria have getting. Also, I was getting mad because, getting angry because it was the strips. They made the mistake of showing you before the teams come down the tunnels, those massive kind of like bus park-sized tunnels that they have coming out of these NFL stadiums onto the pitch before the national anthems. The routine you're getting so used to now before these games. It's endless games. There's too many games to catch up with. Before they showed you that, they showed you the footage on BBC's presentation of Spain against Austria last night. Again, live from Inglewood. What a stadium. That is absolutely breathtaking. They showed you their only previous meeting in the World Cup, which came in the 1978 World Cup in Argentina. And it's shown you Spain with their proper old kit and Austria with it. And you get why Austria have changed from the all-white. They've got a big derby rivalry with Germany, even though they agreed to let Germany win 1-0 in the disgrace of Gijón in that 82 World Cup match refereed by Bob Valentine, which has been plenty referenced here with Algeria playing Austria in these World Cup finals. But you can understand why Germany, big derby rivals, they don't want to be wearing the same colours as them. The white shirt, black shorts, white socks, which they wore going back to the 30s and all that. The time of the paper man and all these kind of things. But it was... It used to look great. I think because it was the same colour, the same basic colours as the Germany kit, but theirs was Puma. It's the big Herzogenaurach kind of dividing thing, the Puma factory and the Adidas factory. Well, they had the Puma kits all the time, did Austria. So because it was the same colours as Germany, it was just the differences were so much more notable. And it was smoother somehow. It seemed more sophisticated. I love Adidas. I love the three stripes and all that. But they had the Puma kind of trim on it, so it's different shapes, seemed classy, and you get the wee Puma on the actual kit as well. It was always very exciting, and especially get guys like Hans Krankel wearing that kit, and it looked really nice. In Spain, were wearing back in '78. Spain are wearing their deep red, just all red with a massive, very royal-looking Spanish Football Association badge. It's always going to get royal patronage, hasn't it? Anybody in Spain? All these Reals, but they've got that really deep blood red, and it's just the light blue silky shorts, and the socks black with on the black fold with the two bands of reds with the gold band in the middle for the Spanish flag. Now they've still got that, but it's this kind of matte dark blue colour they've got their socks now, the Spanish, which matches the matte dark blue of their shorts and the kind of matte dark blue, and it's still got the Spanish flag through it, and it's very nice, but it's very matchy, it's very nicey, and it coincides with the fact that Spain are probably going to win this World Cup as well. They're really getting into the flow. A magical performance. I watched bits of it. Magical performance by Spain last night against Austria, getting into the groove. What you do is you watch, when I'm fast forwarding through a recorded programme, like 2.5 hours of highlight, or 2.5 hours of the game, the actual live coverage, because I don't want to miss it in case anything gets mentioned and is worth seeing. You're fast forwarding through and you're kind of watching it, and then I'll just watch for the score changing and the wee box up the top. Oh, 1-0, right, that's the first goal. So I'll rewind it a bit more carefully to the point where the opposition last had the ball. That way I get to watch the whole of the goal that I'm about to watch. I get to see it from the moment it started. With Spain, you've got to rewind it for about 10 minutes to get to the point where Austria last had the ball. They're just passing people to death. Phenomenal style of football and different from anything else at this World Cup. There's so many different styles of magical football at this World Cup. But I'm watching the kind of, Austria and Spain have ruined their kits. They've ruined their kits. It's not as good as they were back in my day, and they're getting the stats wrong. France are sensationally smooth at this World Cup. Argentina are sensationally led. Paraguay are sensationally resilient. England are sensationally nervous. The Dutch, the Germans, the Uruguayans, they are sensationally out. You know, the Japanese are sensationally promising. Unlucky. I mean, so close. No unlucky, but so close. Japan, USA are sensationally intense. They are fantastic to watch. Cape Verde are a sensation, and Scotland are home. Scotland are home. We're back home. How you doing, folks? This is your fat egg. As the refs come out and lift the ball, the three-coloured ball off that kind of 1980s, late 80s, early 90s black ashtray, kind of pub black plastic ashtray. You've got it, say Adidas underneath it, and they come out onto walk up the halfway line onto the pitch, and then the teams and the entire squads follow them, having come all the way down these massive Clyde Tunnel length tunnels that the NFL players usually come up in these, and I think that's why the whole squad is used. I don't think it's anything to do with bonding or everybody being out there to get a taste of the atmosphere. I think it's a FIFA directive to try and fill the tunnels. You know, I get the guy who runs the supporters association and all that. Get the account, get the cashier, that takes money for the tickets, and that. Get her in there as well, or him, whatever, and get anybody at all. Get the president of the SFA, and just get them all walking up the tunnel, because usually it's these tunnels that they're walking up, these NFL stadiums. It's your special teams, and you get defense, offense, your kicking teams, all that kind of stuff. Receiving the kickoff, and all the different teams have got. There's about 85 folk in each team coming up the tunnels, and they fill them up. They need that space, but they don't have that. It's just too much. These 11 players is lost, or 22 players and a ref and 2 linesmen. It's completely lost going up the tunnels. So they just get them to walk up the tunnels, and then I think they try it again. They go, "Oh, you fag Europeans, you fag South Americans, you got your little pussy ass tunnels. We need a proper. You better try and make you feel at home. A bit of real American hospitality. We'll replicate. We'll just give you a kind of abstract expressionist, maybe just an impressionist impression of a tunnel right at the halfway line, like you like it, nice and cosy, so you can just fall out your dressing room straight onto the park at the centre circle at the halfway line, like you do in your fag woke European stadiums." And they've got this thing. You've seen it. It's like a kind of. It's like Jonas took revenge on the whale. It's like a sperm whale's decomposing bodies. The open rib cage. The rib cage has been kind of. It's probably just left there. It's not been pulled open, but people are walking. You could walk up between the rib cage. It's 3 or 4 plastic kind of arched bowed things, almost like a big rib cage shape, all of them, and they put them either side of the halfway line, just at the side of the pitch, so the players feel that they're walking up a kind of normal tunnel onto the centre circle when they go down that halfway line towards the centre circle. With their different coloured tracksuit tops on, depending who they're playing. And like Mexico's and Spain's look like they're made of gaffer tape, and Japan or South Korea and the Dutch have all got super fancy ones that look like they're made for your grand's curtains in the 1980s. These players are ready to sing the national anthem rather than anticipating a huge match or having any kind of disgust at the Trump regime. I mostly now continue to feel my life as thinking that the impossible is the minimum requirement from my football teams, because someone my football teams regularly horses in a derby has done it, has done the so-called impossible, and the most I get is a flaccid, floppy semis. Celtic won the European Cup 1967, Rangers 1960 semi-finals, 1993 a goal away for the Champions League final. Salkett's Vicks 1925. They won the Scottish Junior Cup at Rushden Winton Rovers, my team, at Rushden Winton Rovers. Semi-finals 1911, 1934, 1970. Blantyre Vicks beat us at Ibrox. They said Ibrox. The pain for Rushden Winton Rovers, we can't get to the final, get to the semis plenty of times. In England, 1966, apparently they won the World Cup, and Scotland, 1930, we got to the semi-final. USA team 1930. So I mentioned this. The Scottish manager, Bartholomew McGee, scored the second goal ever. Born in Edinburgh, Bart McGee scored the second goal ever. His father was manager of Hearts and had played for Hibs. And he scored the second goal ever scored in the World Cup. Lucien Laurent, France, scores against Mexico in 1930. And it's something like a different game taking place in Montevideo the very first day of the World Cup. It was Bart McGee, the USA, born in Edinburgh. He scored like 5 minutes later, 4 minutes later or something. He scores the next goal. So he was almost a Scotsman. He's playing for the USA at the time, fair dues, but that team is absolutely full of Scots. But all I ever get is the semi-finals. I'm going on my holidays, so this is a kind of catch-up pod and a goodbye pod coming to you in association with GERSnet. Check out GERSnet every Friday 9 p.m, every Sunday 9:30 p.m, live on the GERSnet YouTube channel during the club season. The club season is not quite upon us yet, but we've only got just 4 weeks to go, and there'll be friendlies and that. So GERSnet will be back on your screens sooner rather than later. I'm sponsored by GERSnet, and I'm also sponsored by Perv-Cam, Pervert Camera. The Perv-Cam that FIFA have installed at every stadium, it seems. I've been seeing this you've noticed this for years now. I think you particularly notice it as you get older, and that it's just you become more a pervert now, but it's become more kind of responsible, thinking about the way women are objectified, and the kind of shit that happens. Your eyes are wide open to how other folk are looking at women, and it's horrible. Like Senegal against Belgium, protesters run on the pitch. Senegal against Belgium, don't even know what they're protesting. The only reason I know about it, they ran on the pitch in Seattle, was because suddenly we're just getting endless footage of what was going on in the bench. Endless footage of the Belgian manager's face watching the protesters. God forbid FIFA would ever show you pictures of that. Croatia, that getting their goal ruled out, their equaliser ruled out in the 113th minutes last night or this morning in Toronto. Croatia fans are pelting the Portuguese goalkeeper, any officials, with bottles, apparently, with any kind of plastic drinks that you would imagine. I was at Euro 96 at Hillsborough with the Croats in the Leppings Lane end, and they were going mental, fighting with the Polish and all that. They're a bit. Do you remember them holding up the game in St Etienne in the Euros as well? They just like to. I was at the Serbs. They just like to riot. They're a bit boisterous in those neck of the woods. That's why I'm quite glad we've got a goalkeeper from that area is suddenly signed at Rangers. But you're not getting to see that because it's FIFA that are in charge of the broadcasting of these games. No doubt they're contracting out local cameramen and what have you, camera women, local directors and all that, but they're in charge of the pictures, and you will not see anything like that. You'll not see anything that ruins the product. But what they consider to be embellishing the product is that every single fucking goal, and I have watched most of them, I'm still trying to catch up with most of the goals that are scored in this World Cup, but within 2 seconds of that goal being scored, there will be a woman from age 14 to 44, and sometimes you can see the camera, oh, blonde, yeah, close up, mate, I think she's 14, fuck, cut, go to something. It's fucking disgusting. They will be right in there. It's every single time. Now, there's men and women at these games, obviously. There's people of all ages and all shapes and sizes. But if you want to get on the telly at the World Cup finals, particularly the 2026 World Cup finals, wear a mad, daft outfit. Right, dress up like the Statue of Liberty or something like that. That's cool. That's fine. Or cry during the national anthem, or cry with distress as your team concedes a late goal to put them out, or cry with pride as they've scored a goal to get them back into the game. Just cry and they'll find you. I'll do the thing of gesticulating, like praying, oh, please, my life depends on football. No, man, that's coming from me. And they will definitely get you on camera, or be a woman with a pulse. Be a woman with a pulse, and they will get you on camera, particularly when there's a goal and you're jumping up and down. I'm getting to the point where I think there's absolutely no doubt whatsoever that there is a director, there's a cameraman whose job it is to scope out women supporting each team, so female supporters of each team that's playing in a game, so that the second they score a goal, that's who comes up. Got you. And it's got to the point where there's I actually think they may be giving tickets to attractive females. They might be saying, right, we'll give you free tickets as long as you sit in the front row, and when your team scores, you're going to sit right here at these seats because we've got a camera located there, and when your team scores, you must jump up and down, and wiggle about and stuff like that as well. That's how the blokes are doing the same. That's we jump up and down and wiggle about as well. We told you they can't help being women. You know what I mean? It's just a fucking. But It is absolutely disgusting. It's totally perverted, and it's every single flipping game. This is FIFA, and this is what makes me so. The quarters, splitting the game into quarters. You know, we already talked about the regime, the Trump regime, and that's just par for the course with FIFA. Still, can't help being addicted. Can't help being addicted to the World Cup, despite all my political posturing for most other days of the week during the normal year. No, I'll just go right along there and support that shit. And it's totally taking. There's like 70,000. You know, Curacao playing Ecuador, 68,000. Everywhere there seems to be 68,000 tolerant. Doesn't matter who's playing who. This thing is sold out. The stadiums are stunning, and the games are just fucking ridiculous. The stuff, the football history that's being made, the heights of goal scoring, it's stupendous, and it's too much to take in. They're splitting the games into quarters. That suits me. Because it's not just about sitting down and watching one game like the Champions League final, right? I'm going to put Saturday night aside and I'll sit and watch that. And if suddenly there's the hydration break, you're like, for fuck's sake, this has really ruined the flow of the game. No. You're trying to watch like 4 games a day at times. I need hydration breaks during these games. I need to hydrate as a supporter. I need to dehydrate as well. Get myself to the loo. I need to go and get myself a wee cup of tea and all that. I need to plan my dinner and stuff. I actually try and live my life. I need little breaks. I can't be sitting down for 45 minutes at a time because there's so much World Cup to watch. Japan against Tunisia. I'm thinking, Japan have scored a goal in each quarter. They won 4-0 Japan. A goal in each quarter. Their fans are tidying up the stadiums. When they leave the stadiums, they're taking away all the rubbish and all that famous thing for the Japanese supporters. You know, absolutely tremendous, the Blue Samurai and all that. But they're actually tidying up how they're scoring goals at the World Cup as well. And the way they played Brazil, they were really impressive, Japan. They're learning. They're deliberately. They beat Scotland at Hampden and England at Wembley in the same bloody week in the friendlies and the build-up to this World Cup. They know what they're doing, the Japanese. They're really going for it. And yet us who've been there for 1872, we're like, oh, well, never mind, we'll just try and get through. My name's Alec Anderson. I get home from work and you're still standing in your dressing gown. Well, what am I to do? I know all the things around your head and what they do to you. What are we coming to? What are we gonna do? Blame it on the black star. Blame it on the falling sky. Blame it on the satellite that beams me home, says Steve Clarke. Blame it on the Black Star. It was Ghana. We needed them to give Croatia a bit of a thrashing last Saturday night into Sunday morning. That was last Saturday night. It was just before midnight, wasn't it? Of course. And Ghana did equalise during the game, but lost 2-1. The Black Stars. Ghana, the Black Stars. And Black Star, I've never seen Radiohead live. But when I saw Gillian Welsh at the Barrowlands, about 20 years ago probably, her and the magnificent David Rawlings did a sensational cover of Radiohead's Black Star, and it's a song of depression applicable to Steve Clarke. I would say a man who looks very depressed, a man trying to negotiate the path between a support that's just there for the beer in a lot of instances, but yet a public who suddenly somehow thinks we should be getting to the second round of. We should be trying to. Certainly should be trying to. And not only that, we should be doing it in dazzling style, an attacking style, and a positive style. I saw John McGinn, didn't I? I mentioned that in this podcast. I saw John McGinn the day before Scotland played Curacao. It was a Friday. The day before Scotland played Curacao in our farewell game. Let's send them off to the World Cup with our best wishes. 46,000 there for Scotland against Curacao. My friendly, the feel-good factor that he's created, Steve Clarke, absolutely unbelievable. And turned to John McGinn didn't even play in the game against Curacao because he just finished winning the Europa League as captain of Aston Villa, the first fucking Scotsman to captain a European club, a European trophy-winning side in club football since Graham Souness 42 years earlier. And I saw him. I was going to Annie's Land. I was going to Morrison's, as I do at lunchtime on the Friday, and I thought that's his family and that. It's different members of his family. I thought that looks like John McGinn. That fella looks like John McGinn. I thought he probably is because he's Scottish. He's for this neck of the woods, and they've got the game at Hampden tomorrow. He's probably just. And I think it was something in the paper or that. My wife was saying, he was opening. I think it was a hospice actually. He was a charity thing he was involved in, and I got myself up to Morrison's and just like, oh, there he is there. And I'm not somebody who's going to go and accost footballers or anything like that. So I walked up to Morrison's to get my stuff. I'm thinking to myself, do you know what? You're probably so obsessed with European club finals and Scottish teams and Scottish players doing well in European club finals and with the World Cup, and particularly with Scotland doing well in the World Cup and with the Scotland national team or state in the World Game. You're probably so obsessed with all this stuff that it's probably just a guy who looks faintly like John McGinn. You've probably just imagined it. You've superimposed John McGinn. You're actually starting to hallucinate. So I checked it out on my way back down, the way back round the road. I looked into the cafe and just that he'd just got up to go and get some kind of paper napkins or something like that for the table, and just with his very distinctive gait. That is John McGinn. That is John McGinn. I'm thinking, what does this mean? Because it has to mean something, doesn't it? It has to be something symbolic. Well, John McGinn, he scored our first goal at the World Cup for 28 years. He scored our first winning goal in a major finals football match for 30 years, since OLLIE McCrorie at Villa Park, where John McGinn is captain, against Switzerland back in 1996. And he scored our first winning goal in a World Cup finals match in 36 years, since Mo Johnston putting away that penalty against Sweden in Genoa back at Italia 90. And that was it. That was it. Nobody else scored. It was the only goal we scored at the World Cup, the first World Cup appearance in 28 years. That was a symbolism. That's what it is, me seeing John McGinn. You know, he didn't play against Curaçao, that's for sure. And Steve Clarke's I think it's too quick a decision, too quick an announcement. At the end of 3 long days, I keep meaning to look up the name of the playwright who did Dear England. There was a serialisation of the play. They did it, they televised it, a television version that was on 4 Sundays in the trot in the build up to the World Cup. That was like fantastic. It was really good. But he should do another play. He should do one for Scotland. It should be like 3 days in Charlotte. What the hell went on? Sitting there, knowing that you've got to prepare for another match that will probably never happen. You've got to prepare for the round of 32, even though it looks like you're not going to get there. But at the same time, the chances of you getting there are pretty good. And then watching every single one of those games over the course of 3 days, every possible disaster, just insult, the way they were happening, last minute equalisers and stuff. Just every other group, every other third place team somehow managing to instantly happened before our game. Like Bosnia and Qatar, and Bosnia getting a third goal to seal that one when Qatar were all over them, and a draw would have suited us there. Between those two, Egypt against Iran, South Korea losing to South Africa straight after our game was finished against Brazil, when that just wasn't supposed to happen at all, leaving South Korea in the same points as us in third place but in a better goal difference. Straight away they're above us in the group, and they never went through. It's only Uruguay. Uruguay was the only team out of all the groups that finishing in third place, that finished below us in the third place finishers table. And the last one that meant there was 2 more to go, and those still, I think DR Congo beating Uzbekistan. What was it? I can't remember the last group. Even they managed to finish above us just to make sure. But by that point, there was only 2 groups left. By that point, but the last one was the one that made there was going to be, there was no chance of there being any more than 4 teams finishing on a worse goal difference, a worse points tally than ourselves in third place. It was Croatia against Ghana in Toronto, I think. And within seconds of the final whistle, Steve Clarke's decision to, which he'd been at it for a while, putting together that statement. It was a very long statement, and out it came. And I don't think it's a very wise thing to do. We get these flash interviews, super flash interviews they call them. I've not listened to the Rangers review for about 2 weeks because I'm stuck in the World Cup thing, and I think that's what we need to do. You need to, with football, it's good to get involved with a different type of football, and that's every summer. I'll talk about that later, so I'll talk about that a bit when we go into talking about Rangers. But I've not been listening to the Rangers review because I've been listening to Sports Sound, because they're the ones talking, they're the ones over there at the USA, Mexico and Canada. They're covering the World Cup, even though a bit shoddily at times. And they're talking about how Steve Clarke, it was terrible the way he handled, it wasn't very nice, it wasn't very considerate, the way he handled these super flash interviews. This is the other thing about it being pornographic from FIFA. These interviews they make the managers of each side do on the pitch, basically, still in their dugout, as soon as the final whistle goes. There's obviously appointed journalists whose job is to go out there and get that interview with them right on the final whistle. And of course, Steve Clarke's a bit snappy, a bit dismissive, doesn't like it because his team's just lost. His team's just get beat. There's then going to be the actual press conference just after it, but they've introduced this thing and it's obligatory. You have to do it, and the journalists hate doing it as well, because they don't want to be getting in a manager's face when his team's just lost. Now, there's going to be a winning manager for most of those games. Some games in the group stage, both managers are unhappy, a draw or whatever, but there's going to be at least one unhappy manager per interview, per game, and it's clearly, you can see the way they're dissecting it on Radio Scotland, on Sports Sound alone. Plenty of pundits, and it's usually people that have played football, are quite sympathetic with Steve Clarke. But the Tom Englishes of the world can come in there and be, it's quite rude. It wasn't very nice. It's not very considerate. People are supporting the team, they want to know what's happening. No, it's like, I don't want this is why it's pornographic. It gives you, no matter the result, it means that FIFA are catering to the people who will promote their brand, because FIFA are giving them football. There's no protests, there's no violence, there's lots of pretty women, and there's it's just Taylor Taylor's blokes as well. It's fucking, you wouldn't think there's a fucking women's World Cup and women's Euros and all that have whole countries totally captivated by them as well. It's but it's the lowest common denominator stuff, and it means that the manager is going. They've introduced this FIFA because they know the manager is going to be upset. They know that the head coach who's lost the game or got the bad result is going to be upset. He's going to say something rude in the heat of the moment, and that gives journalists, broadcasters, endless copy. It gives them endless material to get stuck into. It's not just the game, because fucking God forbid it should be about the football. We can't rely on that alone. Emma Hayes is the best pundit on any World Cup thing, Euros as well, I've ever seen, because she just comes out. She's really affable, really nice, good laugh and all that. But she knows the Fitbit, and she will tell you about tactics. She will tell you how both teams are playing the game. Nobody wants to hear that. She gets abuse and all that from people on social media. What the fuck she did? I mean, she's the manager of the USA women's team, which is one of the most powerful football institutions on the entire planet. But she just fucking knows the game inside out, because she's a high-end manager, and she just dissects these games. The first water break, the first hydration break, you've had 23 minutes of football. She's got both teams pinned, and she'll break, not just telling you how it works, but doing it in the space of a minute-long segment that they can shove in the middle of the hydration breaks on ITV. But FIFA don't want that. FIFA don't want women knowing about football. FIFA don't want to. Remember, it was Sepp Blatter that wanted the women to wear tighter tops to get a bit marketing-wise. Let's get tighter tops on these. They just want to make money in the most disgusting ways possible. They just think the whole world thinks like they do. All bureaucrats that they are. So they want these flash interviews, and that gives us the salacious stuff. I was so rude. Oh, I hate it. It's so disrespectful. No, I'm very much on the side of. The same stuff was levelled at Gordon Brown when he was Prime Minister. Same stuff was levelled at Andy Murray when he's trying to become the first British man to win Wimbledon since Fred Perry. He's not very cheery. He's a bit surly. He doesn't cry enough. What the fuck is wrong with people? What the fuck is wrong? I don't want a guy who's in charge of the nation's finances as we had a global depression, a global recession. I don't want him being chirpy and cracking the jokes. No, I want him looking like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. I want to know he takes on board how bad this is, and he's got to do something about it. Andy Murray, he's a sportsman. He's a young man, a sports guy who's trying to concentrate. He needs to put everything he's got into winning these tennis tournaments against three of the greatest other players that the world's ever seen. That's the time he's got to break this duck for Britain. That is hardly his fault. But he's got that on his shoulders as well. He's gone for that. But he's no. He could be smiling a bit more. He's a bit surly. I want him as surly as fuck. I want him like one-word answers. And Steve Clarke being a prick. Steve Clarke, at times you can see he's a total prick. Same when he was Kilmarnock manager. That's exactly what's required. That makes me feel so good. I want to know he takes on board what is required with this country, especially this football team, especially when you're going to lose more games, and you're certainly going to lose the bigger games. That's what happens. He doesn't get ahead of himself when they win, and he's bloody angry when they lose, which means he doesn't accept it. It's something he wants to better. It's something he wants to resolve. He totally gets it. And we've got Tom English. He's not very nice. I was listening to Tom English. See if you and me, you're an adult as well. See if you're an adult and you're involved in some sort of rammy, like a shouting match at your work or something like that, or a neighbour, I don't know what the fuck. You get involved in some sort of ding dong. Where you're just kind of shouting at each other and getting a bit angry or whatever, or maybe you're playing five-a-sides or something. You end up having actual kind of fisticuffs, handbags, stuff. See you next day. You're laughing at yourself, aren't you? You're taking the piss. You're just like, what was that all about, man? It's embarrassing. I lost the plot there. I don't want. Tom English on Radio Scotland after he's dust up with Neil McCann. Neil McCann's not been back on Radio Scotland. Tom English is on, and the rest of the panellists and pundits. No, Willie Miller's absolutely sensational on Sports Sounds, and Leanne Crichton, the manager of the Rangers women's team, is absolutely tremendous as well. And they're trying to have a laugh at him about it. But he's like, oh hi, he laughed at Neil McCann. Tom English got a crack jokes about Neil McCann, the state of him, what was he all about? But just total jobs worth, protecting his job all the time. No class, zero personality. Good journalist, he knows his stuff, he's got the details and that, but everything's vile and venal and horrible. And I'm sick of fucking listening. I'm part of the problem if I keep listening to him. But Steve Clarke, he wasn't very nice at it. He's actually praising Steve Clarke as a manager. He is laying it out there what Steve Clarke's done well, what he's done poorly. But yeah, at times he's just rude. He's just fucking right. He is. He's a football manager. He's not a diplomat. Do you know what I mean? He's no like somebody that greets you at a restaurant or something like that. He's Michelob Ultra. That's a drink. It's around about the tracks. It's advertising, the LCD advertising in the stadiums. That it's the all blue, the kind of light blue with the red label on it. That DR Congo's kit they were wearing against England, and they wore against was it Uzbekistan? I think they wore the red against Uzbekistan. Who else was in that group? DR Congo, Uzbekistan, Colombia, and Portugal. I think they might wore it against Portugal. They wore it against Portugal, I think, as well. It's that, but it's also Thatcher's Juicy Apple Cider. That was the umbrellas down on Great Western Road that I saw the next day, the day after the Portugal against DR Congo game. And I'm thinking, it's when they're all tied up, it's the blue with it's the red apple that they're advertising, and it makes it look like DR Congo's kit in those two games at this World Cup. Is it Stazione or GWR, the kind of bistro type place? It's the old converted station house. Just before you go into Naval Hospital, they've got the beer garden umbrellas up there, they're folded up. They look like DR Congo players for the day before, but DR Congo stole our World Cup. DR Congo stole Scotland's World Cup. My World Cup dream was for us to go in the last 32 like that. That's all we really required, and they did it. The flash interview stuff, absolutely nonsense. The Germany against Paraguay, this idea that Steve Clarke has got to be positive, he's no negative, he's too negative, don't like his negative football. Now, I know that's no Rangers supporters. It's supposed to be Rangers supporters. We're supposed to not like Steve Clarke because on sectarian grounds, or him pulling us up for our sectarianism, more is the point. And that then leads to he's been sectarian on our parts. But it can't be. It's not us that are wanting Steve Clarke hunted from the Scotland job, because the big thing, he's too negative. He's too negative. And we're welcoming Derek McInnes, another ex-Kilmarnock manager who took Kilmarnock above and beyond. Same as Steve Clarke did when he was at Rugby Park, because he has been negative. He's leaned into the fact that they don't have the resources as most of the other teams round about them, but he overachieves with them. He gets real positive results through being negative. We're all loving it just now. Quietly, the Rangers support, but there's great satisfaction, there's great comfort in the fact that Derek McInnes is our manager. Feels like he's always been the caretaker, he's always been our manager. But it's because he's negative. It's because he's not going to do any of this crap that we're getting from Danny Rule, that daft German. Remember him? Germans are just rubbish. We can see Germany are absolutely rubbish at football. That's one thing we've all learned quite recently. But he's done this 4-2-2-2 kind of all-out attacking until you're absolutely knackered, and then you end up conceding the amount of goals that you've just scored. Stuff. I mean, in the game we beat Hearts 4-2, but Shankland wasn't playing for Hearts that day back in February, and then we had the game against Celtic. We're 2-0 up, 2-0 up against Celtic. Two fantastic goals for Chermiti. Then Celtic come out second half, and they just plug away, and it ends up 2 each. That's seriously entertaining. That's totally positive football. We hate it. As Rangers supporters, we hate it. We want Derek McInnes in there, the guy who just ground stuff out, set pieces and all that. With Aberdeen, a few more resources than he had at Kilmarnock, and then he gets the big resources at Hearts, and he's responsible for the greatest title challenge in the last 40 years in Scotland, because still relying on set pieces and all that, but unbeaten at Tynecastle, got a great unbeaten record at Tynecastle the whole season, unbeaten at Tynecastle, except was it League Cup they get put out in penalties, but over 90 minutes anyway. There's the old Derek McInnes there. And we want him in because he's getting rid of all this tippy-tappy, wide attacking stuff. We'll get rid of Tav with his overlaps that he can't get back for. We'll get proper right back. We'll get proper defenders that are going to defend. We'll get midfielders that are going to midfield. We'll get strikers that are going to bang in the goals. And it's all going to look in a way that we understand it. We like it being negative. We like the negativity. Practicality, that's what we're getting with Derek McInnes. So it's no us. It's no us that are hunting Steve Clarke for his style of football, because it's a style that we are welcoming to Ibrox right now, and I don't get this attitude about negative football, positive football, what attacking football. Are you fucking mental? We'll get absolutely destroyed when we play against certain teams with attacking football. Well, Scotland, it's about getting positive results. And if you watched on Monday night Paraguay against Germany, oh my God, I like the Germans. That's my second team. But basically, through growing up with them doing what Paraguay did to them, on Monday, I would watch the Germans thinking, it doesn't matter how boring their football is, doesn't matter how much everybody hates them. And when I was growing up, there was a lot of hangover from the war stuff. I actually got worse as we got further away from the war. And nobody liked the Germans. They're jammy, lucky, always winning on penalties. And I'm thinking, but if they always do it, surely that's the opposite of lucky. It's when you do something all the time. And they just kept going. Didn't care about the slagging or getting the style of football. Didn't care about how under pressure they were in a particular game. They would always find a way through. They just kept concentrating. They just kept going. Lots of ex-German footballers, alcoholics, drank themselves to death as well. It's not like they're super slim and fit and all that compared to Scotland. A lot of the same, very, very similar nation in terms of their kind of private lives, the German footballers with the Scots, but they somehow managed to always make it work. They would find a way, despite the fact everybody wanted France or Brazil to win. Nah, Germans just keep going. Scotland can do that. I used to think to myself, now I see Paraguay becoming the first team ever to beat the Germans on penalties in a major international tournament. First time ever to beat the Germans on penalties, and they did it with the most beautiful negativity I have ever seen in my life. It's Tim Vickery, who's on the South American Expert. He's on BBC. He's all over the place, Tim Vickery. He's world soccer for years. I grew up reading Tim Vickery, and I think he's about 10 years younger than me as well. But he was talking about this Paraguay team. They take to the pitch thinking they're winning 0-0, and they will defend that 0-0 lead with their lives, and by fuck, they certainly did. They'd one attack in the first minute. I think it was just launching it from kick-off. They had centre, so they launched it up front and they won a corner from it, and that was them. They didn't cross the halfway line until they got the goal right in the stroke of half time with a beautiful. It's full concentration. Just because you're sitting in your own half, you're still concentrating. You can be trying harder than the opposition. We know this as Rangers supporters, Celtic supporters out there as well, watching an opponent who's not in any way attacking you, but they're having a better game through sitting in their own half. They're posing you the problem, and they rode their luck a bit. I think the goalkeeper definitely fouls. When Tar scores for Germany in extra time to put in the lead, he gets chopped off for a foul on the goalkeeper. I think the goalkeeper heel was actually fouling the German, and the guy just stood his ground, so the goalkeeper hits the deck knowing that he's made an arse of it. They got a bit lucky in that, but they earned their luck, as they say, and the goal they scored half-time, just beautifully accurate, driven, determined, and in no way shit scared of anybody just because they're refusing to cross the halfway line. Counter-attack, the very kind of move that you could see Scott McTominay, Kenny McLean, Lewis Ferguson, John McGinn getting involved in, Lauren Shankland, and they end it bang, 1-0. Should we not embrace the fact that we can't get out of a first-round group stage before we start demanding attacking football? It's a naive thing to think. Well, it takes me back to when Rangers. Walter Smith's getting slagged for no playing Chris Boyd in the Champions League group stage, but he scores a hat-trick against Aberdeen. That means he can score goals against anybody. It means we'll lose our entire midfield, and we'll not be able to go over the halfway line because Chris Boyd can't run for toffee. He needs teammates to be applying the pressure, and he will pick his moment to score. You can't do that in the Champions League. Knowing your Rangers, the budgets we've got compared to the teams we're up against, it just seems so obvious that Scotland can't afford to be going out all out. The problem at that World Cup was, I think Steve Clarke has listened to these people saying you've got to be more positive, and he wasn't negative enough. Like a straight guy trying to impersonate a gay guy, he's all mince about, don't you? No, gay guys don't all mince about. That's no really how it works. Women, they all wear skirts and dresses, don't they? No, mate, you know, all them wear trousers and stuff, trouser suits and things like that. It's not that you're trying too hard. It was like Steve Clarke just went, okay, we're going to try and go for it a bit against, but if I go 5 at the back against Brazil, I'm going to get slagged rotten here. So we're going to try something. Just don't bother keeping the tight lines at the back. Just kind of pass it about at the back. Just go for it. That's what it's like when you go against your nature, when you try to be the opposite of what you are. You're not used to being the opposite of what you are, so you're not trained at it. You don't know how to do it. You do this impression of it rather than being that thing. And we cannot be all out attacking Scotland, especially against Brazil. It's just not how we're going to win that kind of game at this point in time. It's like Rangers getting slagged for anti-football, such as Celtic supporters, in 2008 to get to Manchester. Let's just get to our first European final in 36 years before we worry about the style. As long as you're not actually cheating, that's the main thing. And then 2022, we get to our next European final, and it's all guns blazing, setting Europe alight with fantastic football. That's Scotland, same thing. Can you afford to be deciding what style of football we want to be playing when there's only one that's ever going to get us there? We'll start getting into the knockout stages of major tournaments before we have a look at what kind of football we're going to play. I think we've got to acknowledge what we are, what our history is, and work with it. Negative tactics can look great when done with passion, and there's a real proactivity to them. There's a real positivity to them, and even patriotic. I mean, those Paraguay players are playing out their skins for their country, for that shirt. The fact they're wearing an all dark blue away kit really pushed the point home when they're playing the Germans. You're pursuing a deliberate and determined game plan to maximise your chances of taking something from a big game and getting history under your belt. Kai Havertz scoring a backward header, the opening goal in that game. Was it the opening goal or was it the equaliser? I think they scored first, the Germans, didn't they? No, the equaliser. And the backward header, the best backward header from a German at a World Cup since Uwe Seeler wearing the version of that shirt that's just up there behind me. Oh, that's a Gerd Müller one. That's number 13 against Peter Benetti in Lyon in the quarter-final in 1970. Big Waltemad, the guy at Newcastle. The Tash, he looks like the old Roland Wolfhard, the old Bayern Munich player from the 80s and the early 90s, I think, certainly the 80s anyway. Roland Wolfhard, big, tall, kind of lanky guy, and it's the same. He did the tash, and it was the day of the mullet, but Voltemad has brought that back. I thought the Paraguay players, they all look like middleweight boxers, and this is a team that's lost 4-1. They get destroyed by the USA. They're the first team to come up against Pochettino's USA in a real, the World Cup USA under Poch. They're phenomenal. They're amazing to watch. The States, great to watch when they're on it. So they get beat 4-1 off them. Next game, straight after Scotland have lost to Morocco. I sat and watched this game. 4 o'clock in the morning, I think the kick-off was, and they score after 60 seconds, Paraguay, against Turkey, then get a man sent off within a few minutes and spend the rest of the game defending a 1-0 lead. And I'm talking into, you get your 15 minutes injury time at the end of each half. It was unreal. The stress, the tension, the fighting, the bitching, the moaning, everything. This is Almiron gets sent off for doing the hand over the mouth thing. Down to 10 men and defended this goal. They scored the goal 60 seconds or 65 seconds into the game, and that was it. Backs to the wall, defending that 1-0 lead for the rest of the game. They were phenomenal. They have an agreed, obviously, 0-0 with Australia that gets them through to the next round. But big Canale, the guy who scores a winning penalty. Give Lannis whatever they want. Lannis in Argentina. He's 30. And like today or tomorrow, he turns 30 this month. He just looks phenomenal. Just at the face, he looks like somebody who fights Clint Eastwood in Every Which Way But Loose, or Any Which Way You Can. He's got the soul perm and all that, and just a face that just says backroom brawler, backstreet brawler. Phenomenal performance from him at the back all game, just throwing himself in front of everything, and he steps up and scores the winning penalty because he has balls bigger than my fat head. Amazing. And that's got to be what it is for us. That's got to be what we've got to do. We've got to get in there and be super negative as far as I'm concerned. Usually I go back to domestic football after a major tournament. In the late summer, it's late July into early August, and I feel a bit, that was lovely. It's like a summer festival. It's like a summer reading summer fiction, a summer romance, a big tournament during the summer. It's like, it's a different type of addiction, as I was saying before. I think from what I've gleaned of heroin, you just want to stay on heroin. If you're using heroin, you just kind of basically want to stay on heroin forever. But it's like if a heroin user could go into cocaine. That's a completely different thing, obviously. But they could go into cocaine for like 4 weeks or 5 weeks for these summer international tournaments. And I kind of like, suddenly you'd feel like, I'm like a banker, I'm like a city worker, I'm using a designer drug, I'm quite cool now, I'm doing cocaine, that's what I want to, that's what it's like swapping the addiction for something lighter that lets you see the world in a different way, kind of gives you a refresh of, it's the same sport, but it's a different version of it, it's a different world, international football, and I'm just seeing Scotland, in many ways, it's kind of ruined it a bit, made it a bit darker, but you still can't help appreciating the magical football that's going on, the world game, seeing these stadiums, all the different supporters, everything. But I think I'm going to go back to Ibrox. Usually go back to Ibrox, and it's much as I love Rangers, and I fucking love Rangers. It's my love for Rangers is so deep, so addictive, so kind of it gets dark at times. That it's nice to have breathed the wide open air of a summer tournament, even if you're just watching it in telly. But now I feel as if I think maybe the Steve Clarke thing. Steve Clarke being, I mean, he's packed it in, but I think he's in 3 days to look at the media reaction to him. He knew about it. He knew before anyway. He knew before he went to the World Cup. So why did he sign that 4-year deal? I think the SFA wanted him to sign it. So that was that. But now I think it's actually going to go the other way. It's really internecine, isn't it? It's really darkly bitter. The Rangers thing. Everybody hates us. That's fine, but we end up hating them back, and sometimes we hate other folk before they even get a chance to hate us at Rangers, and even just the social media stuff, the shit stirring. It's horrible. Everyone round about Rangers at times. You really have to be in there to support the team to feel it at times. So yeah, it's a bit dark. I'm kind of reluctant to get back into that small-mindedness after a big summer tournament. No, this time I feel as if I might be coming away from the Scotland thing, just thinking, it's brutal. People no understanding what Scotland have got to do, how they've got to get through the next round of a big tournament. They're not going to be doing it by playing stupidly expansive football. But Rangers, everyone just feels nice, doesn't it? Everyone feels refreshed. It's because the football hasn't kicked off yet. We've not even played a friendly yet under Derek McInnes, but he has always been the manager, as far as I'm concerned. He's doing little pressers now. He's doing interviews with Sky Sports, and he's just seen him standing there on the training top, the tracky top, or whatever, just chatting away. It feels relaxed. It feels comfortable. It feels like a perfect fit. It feels like he's always been our manager, and we're getting these players in. Tav's away, and it's difficult sticking up for Tav, and the way Tav left it gave the last word to all his critics, I think. The way Tav left the club, it wasn't very classy at all. So even I'm not going to be pining after Tav. And Jack Butland is now gone as well, so it's a lot of mistakes for Jack Butland. It's like, I mean, we get rid of Morelos, Goldson, Ryan Jack finally had to pack it in. It's stuff like that, like guys that we're loving, and then it's just kind of dragged on and people are slagging them, you having to defend them, and that's not even a consideration. It is a complete refresh. We're getting these players in. Also, like Lawrence Shankland feels he should always have been here. Ross McCrorie was here. He was here before. Derek McInnes was a player at Rangers. We know that, but in management terms, it just feels absolutely lovely, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's nice and smooth. We've got Ben Godfrey in, who's a centre half, 28 years old, couple of England caps, I think. He played Everton and that, and it's not quite worked out from at Atalanta. He's not got a lot of time. I think he's got one game or something in Serie A in his time at Atalanta. He's been loaned out, and he's played at Brøndby, are all pals for Copenhagen, the outskirts of Copenhagen. That's fine. It's a good enough level. 20 years old. We've got a new centre half in there. Be a good enough CV. It's maybe a bit of a risk, that one, but we've got him on loan. He's on loan from Atalanta. Then we've got Dan Neil. We've got Dan Neil from Sunderland, who's a fantastic. He's a Mackem himself. He's a Sunderland lad, a Sunderland fan through and through at the Black Cats there, and he's been great for Sunderland. Still only 24 years old, and he's played for them in League One when Sunderland come back up through the leagues. Played them in League One, and then in the Championship really has become central to everything they've done there. And he's a 6. He's playing at 6. We've got that 6 that we've not had for like forever, and he's going to. Jack Butland's left, so he looks like somebody. Dan Neil looks like somebody out of what's that? what's the in between us? He just looks absolutely so young. But hopefully he's the six. He's going to put his foot in the ball and stroke it about, give us a bit of structure in the middle of the park, like Billy Gilmour not playing for Scotland. And that's exactly what the rumours persist. I'll go back to Dan Neil talked to Jermaine Defoe, Sunderland. Jermaine Defoe had a good time at Sunderland, and Dan Neil kind of basically gave him a phone call to ask if he should go to Rangers. And I think before he'd even picked up the phone, he'd fucking go. No, but it's Rangers. I go. It's Ibrox. I go. You should go there. That's what you're asking me. Just go. You need to go there. Says Jermaine Defoe, some man. So we've got Dan Neil in the door as well. Ross McCrorie. He did his interview and his balls have definitely dropped since he was last year, down to his knees, I think. And I've said this thing before, when you get mates and that, and when you get to my age, the years start flying by. You get mates, and it seems like just yesterday you were maybe at a party at their house or something, or you're watching his boy playing, doing a party, you're out his back door at a barbecue, and his boy's kicking a couple of pals and that are kicking a ball about, and you're like, he's got to be touching it, he's getting ripped in, and it's like 2 seconds later, you're at Benburb watching. Did I get you an ice cream at half time? You get me a fucking half bottle of Smirnoff and 40 Embassy Eagle, you old pedo, what else you're fucking. And it's like, right, yeah, I'll get you that. And it was a bit like the same with Ross McCrorie when he was doing his interview for Rangers TV the other day, having been signed from Bristol City. He's telling us he's the man. He's telling us he's grown up since he first come through the ranks at Rangers, since his time at Aberdeen, and how much he loves Derek McInnes, how much a great man and manager Derek McInnes is, how he came to his house in East Kilbride to get him to sign for Aberdeen on loan at first, and then signed him permanently just before Derek McInnes packed that one in. But Bristol City, we've got him from, and he's talking about how doing in England, all the games you play, different opponents, you've got to be in the top of your game all the time, and he just kept emphasising the fact that I'm a lot better than I was. I've grown up. I'm not the same wee boy I was when I was here before. And I believe you, mate. I mean, I believe you, sir. I mean, Your Highness, just on you go, Ross. He sounded scary as Ross McCrorie, and that's exactly what we're needing. There is talk that we're going to go for Lewis Ferguson, which I don't even want to contemplate, because we've inquired about Lewis Ferguson in the interviews, asking Derek McInnes about it. It's quite clear that we obviously have, because he's denying it in a very respectful way that says, yeah, we've absolutely spoken to Bologna and to Lewis Ferguson about the possibility of coming to Rangers. Scotland's best player at this World Cup, no doubt about it, was Lewis, and that whole Rangers thing of he had to go away. If he just come straight for Aberdeen, there is no way he would ever have got in, but the kind of Tav levels of abuse from half of our support, just no good. I mean, just because of his name, but now he's actually been away and won the Coppa Italia in Bologna and stuff, and played for Scotland in the World Cup. There's a chance. If Lewis Ferguson does come to Rangers, then we really need to just go for Billy Gilmour as well. I mean, he's injured, so he's obviously a Rangers player just now. We should just go for Billy Gilmour, bring him home, and Ross McBurnie, who scored the winner for Hull City in injury time in the Championship playoff final in Hull City. The goalkeeper, Ivan Pander, Andy, legend of this podcast, the first one to come on and go, all together now, the cry was Ivan Pander. So that's going to be a good one in the Copeland Road this season coming up. But he kept the clean sheets in the semi-final, home and away against Millwall, clean sheets, the Championship playoffs, and in the final against Hull City, Croatian. He's on the bench last night. He's just gone out the World Cup, so he'll be at Ibrox in a fortnight probably. But he's been on the bench for Croatia during this World Cup, and Rangers have a great relationship with Croats, with Croatians, devout Catholics, the Croatians, and they're always absolutely fucking brilliant when they come to Rangers. Absolute legends and always sensational players. So really looking forward to Ivan Pander arriving as our new goalkeeper, our new number one. We've also got Liam Kelly signed up, so the goalkeeping department is sorted. That's been. We'll have to see how it goes. Obviously, how he plays, but it's a good level we've got there. And Jack Butland, we've signed him for $6 million, Ivan Pander, from Hull City, and Jack Butland has gone in the other direction. Hull City, big connection with William of Orange, isn't it? Hull City, But Jack, I've been down there, that statue and all that. But it's a strange place to be on holiday. Hull was a strange place. Very interesting. Jack Butland's gone the opposite direction. At first it was rumoured to be $3 million, so we're basically spending $3 million all in. Hull were buying Jack Butland for. I don't know what's happened there. Maybe that's not the case, but I think that's also why James Taylor, the financial guy, he's basically been let go, hasn't he? Reading between the lines, it's just not going to work out here for you, James. We've got new owners in there. He's lasted a year with the new owners, sweet baby James Taylor. He's gone now, and I think that has to be because Jack Butland, we've got 3 million. Hull on the Premiership, the English Premiership, and English Premier League teams seem to be paying 116 million, 92.5 million, 85 million pound for players just now. And we get 3 million. Get him going. Get James Taylor going. He's not got a clue about how this works. And Jack Butland, his wife put this thing out. I saw it on Rangers Twitter. She put together a video of her and the kids at all the games at Ibrox, saying that her and the wee boys now, with their weddings and the wee lassie now, they're all Rangers supporters. They're Rangers supporters through and through. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger. That if you think you're going to win me over with that kind of patter, you're exactly 100% correct. I just been in tears watching that stuff. She's just sitting a few rows behind me for the past few. Her and the Waynes cheering on Jack Butland. Luckily, I'm the kind of person who never slags players out loud at the games. Never slag players from my own team when I'm at a game. Not audibly anyway. But I have said a few things on various podcasts about Jack Butland, and I just like to take them all back because that video was unbelievable. Jack Butland, I didn't like his act. I didn't like the way he came across. Very kind of public schoolboy, almost very rugby, very kind of just got to believe in yourself from a person who's really middle class. He's probably his working class is get out. But it's that whole thing of people who've had a real solid start in life don't actually know the privilege they've got, and they start going about trying to tell everybody how they've got to try harder. Yeah, you've got to have positive goals like me. He's got a bit of that patter about him, Jack Butland. I never liked that, but mostly it's because he became a bit unreliable with the ball at his feet and just trying to made a lot of really terrible errors as he got a bit older. Only 3 million for a guy who, it's not like he's just been capped for England and like that. He's been capped for everybody. He's been capped for England, Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland. He played for Great Britain in the Olympics, did Jack Butland. We're only getting 3 million from him. That's absolutely disgusting. But fantastic nights as well with Jack Butland. He won the League Cup, kept the clean sheet in that League Cup final against Aberdeen. If they'd kept Derek McInnes, he might have won that game, Aberdeen. It's the only trophy I've seen is winning in the last 3 years, so that'll do for me. And also the night against Fenerbahce, who can forget that? Night against Fenerbahce, the penalty saves at Ibrox against Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce, that was just tremendous. The big man was owning it that night. He was the star of the show. The first time we played in Europe under Philippe Clement was the 0-0 away to Sparta Prague in the Europa League group stage. That night I thought he looked really good. It was quite as good as Alan McGregor against Sparta Prague at Ibrox. Under Gill and Gio's first game in charge, but it was a really good performance. Look at double saves as we held Sparta 0-0, and I thought, yeah, he's going to go well. He's going to do well here. Jack Butland, I think he's becoming a proper Rangers goalie, but it never really quite took off. He was making wee mistakes all the time, but I swore I would never slag him again after that night against Bruges in Bruges. That's, for me, it's about playing for the jersey. It's okay when you're winning. At Rangers, you're winning a lot. Winning a lot of games, maybe not winning a lot of trophies these days, but we're getting beat 6-0 going on 10, and that was, we'd never lost a European game by more than 6 goals. It's only the third time ever that we'd lost a European game by 6 goals. We're still at our worst ever defeat. We're still at a grannying as far as I was concerned that night. And between the referee only allowing 3 seconds of injury time and Jack Butland putting the shift in, and no doubt Club Brugge kind of easing off unintentionally because the tie was theirs. He kept that down to 6-0. That's the kind of thing we don't like talking about as Rangers supporters, but it means the world to me, so I'll always be grateful to him for that. Big Jack Butland, Ross McCrorie, Lewis Ferguson, but just bring them all home. Just bring home everybody who's got any kind of Rangers connection. But get Kenny McLean, get him in the mayor of Norwich, just give him 2 million, whatever it is they want. Get him up here for the one last good season. It seems we're getting proper Rangers people into Rangers, and they're all of a decent level, and that's lovely. It's nice. My snagging items. My last podcast, this is a bit the same. I was so the last podcast. I was not hungover just now. I was so hungover. The last pod. No, I wasn't actually that hung. I hadn't drunk that much. It was just really, really warm. I hadn't drunk a lot for a while. I'm watching World Cup games all the time, and I was really slavering in that particular podcast, making it pretty slow, and I was so busy comparing Scotland's inability to get past the first round to Britain not recovering as well from World War II as Germany and Japan, because we worked on the illusion that winning the war meant somehow winning the peace. No, 1984, it's 1948 backwards, Orwellian style. That I forgot to mention, I think Steve Clarke wasn't negative enough in Brazil, the Brazil game in particular. He let the kind of negative tactics, jibes get to him, and going against your instinct leads to bad stuff. And I didn't focus on the fact that we only scored 1 goal, but I wasn't really expecting us to score more than 1 goal. I think against Morocco, it's such a cataclysmic mistake in the first 70 seconds of the Morocco game that the rest of that it should. When you lose a goal that loses the game, it should distract from. But the rest of that game, when you consider the fact we lost a goal after 70 odd seconds, it was kind of perfect after that. We're so close. I don't see it's like the Gareth Southgate thing. Why? Maybe England are going to go on, and I'm quite happy to see England win this World Cup. I think it's time they won another World Cup, so it's not an insult to the tournament itself. Just win a World Cup by playing other games at home. Just the one time and never get to the final again. It's time England win another World Cup. But we'll see how they got on against Mexico. And probably the way they got on against DR Congo, that's that kind of moment. I'm still of an age where you have to start slow if you're going to win the tournament. You've got to have wee kind of moments where you just get it over the line, and that unites everybody, and it means you're pacing yourself psychologically for a whole tournament. But if not, if England continue to, and they're terrible down the right-hand side defensively, if they continue to have these problems and they go at the World Cup, probably before the final, that will be a failure. And Gareth Southgate is the guy. It's like he got you to the final, the actual final of a tournament twice, and nobody else has ever done that in England. That whole thing I said, and the Dear England play, and it's a start. The guy who's the actor who's playing Thomas Tuchel coming to take over from him says to the Gareth Southgate character, "You have won more knockout games at World Cup than every other England manager put together, not including Alf Ramsey." This is incredible stuff, but the football's boring. Oh, we don't like it. Where's this entitlement coming from? What we know what we want to achieve. We want Scotland to win the World Cup. We want Scotland to win the Euros. We want Scotland to be going really deep into tournaments. I go on about that all the time. That's what our ambition should be. But you've also got to, how are you going to get from A to B? How are you actually going to do it just now? We need a new generation of players coming through who are getting a football thrown at them the minute they come out the boom. But how are we going to do just now to drag the nation forward from the front end? We're only going to do it by persisting with somebody who knows. Steve Clarke is the only guy to qualify Scotland for a major tournament in the 21st century. He's the only guy to have got us to 3 major tournaments. He hasn't got through, but we've only been to 13 major finals in their entire history, and Clarke has got us to 3 of them. The guys that got us to the other 10 never got through the first round. Get him back there. It's not going to happen now. It's not going to happen now. There's too much negativity towards him. But he should be the guy. As far as I'm concerned, I'm talking far too long, folks, and I've got so much left to cover because of this World Cup. Argentina and France, the best so far. I've seen those Spain starting to get it together. My idea, my experience is that slow starts. I know Saudi Arabia beat Argentina in their first game at the last World Cup in Qatar, and Argentina won that thing. But my thing, you've got to start slow. You've almost got to start slow to win a World Cup. It might not be the case anymore, maybe because it's a longer tournament. Somehow that affects the way. But Argentina and France have hit the ground running. Messi is the first guy to score in 7 straight World Cup finals matches. And France are the first team to score 3 or more goals in 5 straight World Cup games. These stats that they're putting together during this World Cup incorporate the last World Cup final, the final of the last World Cup. I'm all about Michael Olise's assists now. 5. It's the most assists there's been at World Cup since Thomas Hassler at USA '94, but mostly it's because the goal scoring levels are just so vulgar. It's just so vulgar. We're scoring so many players to be scoring so many goals, and we're only just in the round of 32. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life, so I need to find the hipster thing. It used to be the golden boot, the golden shoe, the top scorer thing. That's a bit of a hipster thing. I've got my eye on who's going to score the most goals. You get a wee buzz, a wee side buzz off that during a World Cup. But this one, it's just, no. I'm going to just, Michael Olise's assists, you feel like an expert picking them out now because the goal scoring is just all over the place. You can't miss it. Do you know Michael Olise, they're talking about how he was born in Hammersmith. He played for Reading, played for Crystal Palace, as Heading, and anyway, these Yeading or something, these English clubs he's been playing for his whole life, brought up in London or whatever, and then he's at Bayern Munich and he's playing for France. Now I think his dad's Nigerian and his mum's Franco-Algerian. She's French-Algerian, his mum. But the thing he said, in his Wikipedia page, he's talking about how he feels as if he's French. If he wants to play for France, he's always liked the idea of playing for France. He's got more like anything. I don't think that's just because of his mum. I think his mum is the excuse. I think it's almost, I remember Gareth Bale saying playing for Real Madrid because he supported Real Madrid. And these are the players that are growing up the television age, where you can watch football's on television all the time. You can watch whatever country, whatever club you want to watch. And it's not even that thing like Ian Wright. It's always really notable. Ian Wright, John Barnes as well. I remember them both being really effusive about the Brazil 70 team, not because Brazil 70 or Brazil 70, they were amazing. But they're slightly older than me, the two of them, but they remember that was the first time they'd ever seen black guys on British television doing something the whole world was amazed by. Because society is just so fucking racist. It's unbelievable, especially back in the late 60s, early 70s, but they're of an age they can remember watching that Brazil 70 team being sensational, and the whole world just their tongue hanging out, watching how great they were, and everybody going a bit Pele, and it was like for the first time as young black guys, they're like, they guys are the same colour as me, and everybody loves them, and they're amazing. And it was just total inspiration. I don't think that is with Michael Olise watching the French teams going up. It was 2001 he was born. He was born after they won the World Cup in 1998. God, I feel my age. But I think he's watching France and just thinking, I think I've got my choice. I'm going to play for them because they look great. I really like watching them winning the Euros. Or whatever he's watching them winning the World Cup. And he'd be 15 years old, wouldn't he, when they won the World Cup? No, 18. 18, 19, maybe started playing for the underage sides by that point. But France were doing amazing things at football at that time. He's both, I'll take my pick, I'll just play for them because I think they're good to watch. And it's like Gareth Bale, why should I be supporting Man United or, Wrexham or Cardiff or whatever, Swansea, whoever it, but watch the telly all the time. Real Madrid, they're great. I think I'll play for them. I support Real Madrid. He ends up playing for Real Madrid. I think Michael Olise is taking the same attitude to international football. Apparently his French isn't that good. And his football is absolutely sensational. His football is perfect for France. But the thing with Michael Olise is he was born in White City. The part of Hammersmith he was born in is White City. And I've been there, you get the train to Shepherd's Bush and you just head for Loftus Road, for South Africa Road. You head for QPR's ground. But White City, because there used to be the BBC broadcasting, big BBC studios there. Big BBC aerial, that used to come from White City back in the day, but also was the White City Stadium no longer there. And in the 1966 World Cup, the only World Cup that England, one of Michael Olise's other options, he's trying to win the World Cup with France. He could be trying to win the World Cup with England. He had the chance to play for England as well. But the one time England did win the World Cup in 1966, their first round group, composed of Mexico, who are playing England, France and Uruguay. Was in the opening. The first game of that World Cup was England drawing 0-0 with Uruguay, and it was based at Wembley. So all the teams played at Wembley except one game, because the Dogs were on at Wembley. This is no joke. They had the Greyhounds at Wembley, and that was just didn't matter what. It's happened with the 1963 European Cup final as well. Milan against Benfica at Wembley get played on a Wednesday afternoon. I always wondered why the crowd was just 45,000 for that game. It's because it get played on a Wednesday afternoon when folk were at their work in the days and at school, because the Dogs were on a Wednesday night and they couldn't have the European Cup final. So I will take the European Cup final, that's fine, but it's going to have to go in the afternoon because the Dogs are on. That night, the Greyhounds. And the same thing during the World Cup, 3 years later, 66, they moved a game. France against Uruguay. France-Uruguay. When Uruguay had won the World Cup in 1950, this is only 16 years later, they moved that game and they moved it to the White City Stadium. France have played in the World Cup finals in White City, which is where Michael Olise was born. I find that quite incredible. And they played Mexico, and that's who England are playing next. I think that's a coincidence. Yeah, so I'm all about his assists because the goal scoring, from my age, when I was 8 to the age of 33, 6 goals was the most. 6 goals. I think Gregor Lato scored 7 goals for Poland at 1974 World Cup finals. And then 1978, right until 2002. The 2002 World Cup, where Ronaldo, the phenomenon Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo, he's at a lot of these games, the camera's going on, I'm like, giddy, because he was a phenomenon. What a player. He scored 8 goals at the 2002 World Cup finals, and that was sensational. That just didn't get done. And since then, there's a couple of guys, like 5 goals was the top scorer. I think 2006, I think Miroslav Klose, 2006, and then 2010 South Africa. Thomas Muller got the Golden Boot award, but that was because of his assisting. Wesley Sneijder, Diego Forlan, David Villa, maybe there was a few of them were on 5 goals each. That won the top. So to just go already to have Messi on 6 goals after the group stage, Mbappe getting up there with his the last 32 match, he's scoring in the round of 32 as well. To get up there so quickly for Harry Kane to be banging in the goals. Harry Kane's just gone past Pele and is now level with Just Fontaine, who get 13 goals in one tournament. That's the thing, Just Fontaine get 13 goals in one tournament for France. That's the highest number of goals ever scored by a Golden Boot at a World Cup. It was 1958 World Cup, Just Fontaine of France. And I think we're actually looking at a point, I think in this World Cup, I mean, Messi can end up getting 7 goals against Cape Verde as it is. I think that's going to be bypassed. I think the record's going to be broken now. You're like, right, well, there's extra games. There's 16 more teams and there's 40 odd more games at this World Cup finals. Yeah, but not if you win the tournament. For the teams that are actually, the players that are actually playing, they'll only play one extra round. And to have taken it to this level, Gerd Muller scored 10. He's the last guy who scored double figures. Gerd Muller, and that I've not really shown you it properly. If you see that's up there, I've got it back to the front as well. The number 13 jersey, and that's the actual one, the style of one he wore at Mexico. But he scored 10 goals at Mexico 70 for West Germany. That's the last time MD got to double figures at World Cup. And then we had Ronaldo, as I say, in 2002, and he got 2 in the final itself. And that helped him up to the total of 8 goals. But that was like a phenomenon, literally a phenomenon. But now, Messi's telling the first round group stage, you get Haaland, Mbappe, Vinicius Junior, Kane, they're getting 4, 5 goals, up to 6, all totally breathing down Messi's neck as well. And they've still got, some of them are going to have round of 32, last 16, quarterfinals, semi-finals. Some are going to have like 4 or 5 games still to play in this World Cup, and they're up at this level already. It's quite an amazing to think. It's quite an amazing thing to watch. It's a phenomenal level of goal scoring. They're not playing against teams who are particularly weaker than teams would play against in normal World Cups. I don't think so anyway. But it's been 5 or 6 goals for most of the last 50 years has won you the Golden Boot. And now it's, wow, somebody's going to equal Ronaldo 2002, the 6 goals, but not, they're going to go further than this. Just Fontaine's record, I say, of 1958 has to be under threat. And it's going to be quite a thing to watch. Mexico beating Ecuador 2-0. It was a rain-delayed game. First time in 40 years Mexico have won a knockout game at the World Cup. Again, this first time in 40 years they won a knockout game at the World Cup. But yet, I'm thinking of Mexico as a team who always got the quarterfinals at home. This is the 3rd time Mexico have hosted the World Cup in some shape or form. So they always go to the quarterfinals. So you get Negriti's goal against Bulgaria. It was in front of 114,000 in the 1986 World Cup, the last 16 match. He scores this goal. They beat Bulgaria 2-0. So I'm kind of comparing that the other night, them beating Ecuador 2-0. The roars for those goals. It's the two guys, Quinones and Raul Jimenez, doing against Ecuador exactly what they did in the very first game of this World Cup against another team in yellow jerseys, South Africa. They scored the 2 goals, but the roar at the Azteca, it's only holding 85,000 or 87,000 it holds now. The Azteca, nothing compared to back 40 years ago. There was 114,000 in the place, deafening roars. But the noise, it's the lust, it's the desire, it's Scotland, and this is what I would have felt for Scotland to go through to the second round. This is Mexico going back in there. So I know because the tournament's expanded. It's the first time they've won a knockout match since 1986. But 1970 they also get put out in the quarterfinals, Mexico, and they always get put out by the team that loses the final. They get put out by Italy 4-1, and they always move it in 1970. And they get put out by the Germans on penalties. It was 0-0, and they get put out by penalties, I'm sure. But the Germans in 1986, and Italy, of course, lost to Brazil in 1970, and the Germans lost to Maradona's Argentina in the 1986 final, back in the Azteca. But this time, Mexico will be playing, it's a last 16 match. They're playing against England at the Azteca. They usually move the quarterfinal to a much smaller stadium. Was it Leon or something? I can't. Where did they play against? I think they played Italy. Leon, perhaps. back in 1970. Toluca, I think. Toluca. Is it San Nicola or something? The place that they played Germany in '86, and they'd like half and a quarter of the capacity of the Aztecas. I don't know if the crowd was helping them, but I'm stuck between thinking that's it. Mexico only win 2 knockout games, and Mexico have to go out in the quarterfinals. Maybe they have to win the next knockout game. It's hard to tell. But DR Congo, they stole Scotland's World Cup. Nothing to lose, uncharted territory, brave, bold, 1-0 out, 1-0 up late on, and then going out to 2 late goals by a world-class superstar. That's what we should have done under Steve Clarke. DR Congo and Zaire's first ever, DR Congo / Zaire, their first ever World Cup match was lost 2-0 to Scotland in the 1974 World Cup, which was our best ever World Cup, and that's DR Congo Zaire's last match so far in the World Cup has been lost 2-1 to England, and what, if they win it, would be England's best ever World Cup. So that's a wee thing going on there for you, a wee coincidence or whatever. Harry Kane joins Puskas in the all-time scorers list. It's incredible. 84 goals, 84 international goals, Harry Kane. I'm glad I've seen him scoring for England against Scotland at Hampden. I've seen Harry Kane scoring live. I wasn't at the friendly when he scored against us for Spurs at Ibrox. So it's a bit of an honour to have seen Harry Kane score. And he did it against us in a friendly as well as that World Cup qualifying match in 2017. So he likes to score at Hampden, does Harry Kane. But he likes to score everywhere. 84 goals. He bypasses Pelé in the all-time World Cup final scorers, but 7 of the 16 all-time top scorers in international football are still playing. 6 of them are at this World Cup. 6 of them are playing at these World Cup finals. And 4 of them have already scored at these World Cup finals. Now, Edin Dzeko's not gone. Edin Dzeko went out with the States. I think he's up to 90-odd goals or something with Bosnia. He's out with Bosnia. They're losing to the States the other night. A phenomenal game there. Neymar still could get a goal. He's getting a bit fitter for Brazil. He's in that all-time top scorers list. Obviously, you've got Ronaldo and Messi at the top of it. Ali Dai of Iran, he's long retired. He's not going to score, but I think Lewandowski is still. I think he's moving to MLS from Barcelona. Poland didn't qualify. That's the whole thing about Scotland. It's easy to qualify now for tournaments. Poland weren't there. Denmark weren't there. Italy weren't there. Republic of Ireland weren't there. Wales weren't there. It's quite a feat to get to major international tournaments. I think just too negative towards Steve Clarke. He should stay in the job. We need Steve Clarke. We need somebody who can. Anyway, so that's quite a thing. The goal scorers. Belgium against Senegal. It was Raskin in Seattle once again coming on as Belgium trail 2-0, losing, and then Raskin comes on and ends up they do a lot better. They were getting beat 2-0 this time, Belgium. It was an incredible game. They were doing nothing, Belgium. They were doing nothing. He's breaking up the fight between Tielemans and Trossard for the second hydration break. Well, he's trying to break it up, but then Romelu Lukaku comes in, who's twice the size of all 3 of them put together. He breaks up a bit more effectively. And, of course, end up Tielemans and Trossard are best mates after they combine for the equaliser to make it 2 each. But do you think Nico accidentally slips? When he's doing that, he's getting involved in a wee rammy with his teammates. I think he goes, oh, fucking settle down here, by the way. Let's get into these green bastards. Come on, Rangers. I mean, sorry. I saw Je suis désolé. So, but he's fucking calming into these bastards. But Nico's used to being 2-0 down or being 2-0 up, meaning nothing. He's just really patchy performances in games, suddenly throwing away leads. So he'll know that Senegal are completely capable of throwing away their lead. I get that the comeback coincides with his arrival on the pitch. So hopefully we're going to get 40-50 million from Atalanta, already seriously interested in Nico Raskin. He's not coming back to Rangers, surely. And that's probably what we're saying to Bologna. Aye, we'll have the money. We will have it. Just hang on a wee second. It's Raskin and Asgard aren't wanted by the Bears. I'm not wanting them. Just because they lack consistency. The 2 of them are going to come back to Ibrox with World Cup medals. They're going to go to the semi-finals or something like that at the worst. And we're like, just don't really perform. Don't really try for us. Senegal, their behaviour at the penalty. I did that thing. It was like 85 minutes. And you heard people talking about it after when suddenly Belgium equalised. And it's nearly 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, fucking need a cup of tea or something. I need something to keep me going here. Didn't know it was going to go extra time. I thought this game's done. I'm going to just sit here, have a cup of tea, then go to my bed. And there's so little happening. It was 2-0 to Senegal, and it was always going to be 2-0 to Senegal. And I'd said to my wife, who wasn't listening, I said, Senegal are even trying. Senegal, they're talking about how terrible Belgium or Belgium just going out with a whimper. But Senegal are just sitting there. They've gone right into a kind of holding pattern. They're going through the emotions. They've got nothing left either. They're not going to score a third goal. I'm going to go and put the kettle on. But luckily, I come straight back through. As soon as I put the kettle on, just as Belgium pulled one back, and then suddenly equalised. It was quite. It just really was out of nothing. And that's why Steve Clarke. I'm going to keep going about this. I was at the game where Greece are beating us 1-0, the World Cup qualifiers. Greece are beating us 1-0, and Scotland are just getting played off the park. It just looked terrible. Then we bang in 3 goals in a quarter of an hour. This is something. The game against Norway in Oslo, the qualifiers for the last Euros, we're getting beat 1-0, but really hanging on. And Norway take off. They take off Haaland after he scored his penalty. We're going to win this game because Scotland have offered nothing. Ping, pang, pong. We just got ping pong, 2 goals, get into injury time, lost out of nothing. That's what you need. International. If Scotland are always like, we're either brilliant or we're crap. It's gone our way or it isn't from the word go. This thing, being able to change the pace, being able to change it up, having that kind of cynicism, but also as a belief as well. We got that under Clarke. And I've seen Belgium doing it the other night, and they're a top nation. The Senegal's behaviour when Belgium got that penalty in the 120th minute, I mean, it's unbelievable. It was unbelievable stuff. From behind, it didn't look like a penalty. From the camera that was showing the replay in front of us in Seattle, yeah, it looked like a penalty all the way, but it was quite a thing. Tielemans, and what a penalty. He put it away. Something fierce. Fantastic under pressure. As Yuri Tielemans, a great player. I've seen him at Hampden a couple of times for Belgium. But he cited, I think that their behaviour at the award of that penalty, Senegal, can be cited equally by the prosecution and the defence in their appeal, their AFCON appeal to try and be reinstated as champions of Africa. They did set up a kind of fake injury so one of the players could slump down and lie on the penalty spot. Oh, I'm injured on the penalty spot. Well, Belgium are waiting to take the penalty for a couple of minutes, but they did not walk off the field for a quarter of an hour before the thing was taken. So it could go either way. But Nico handling the ball about a yard from his own box in the 130th minute of that game, with Belgium hanging on to a single goal lead. I think that kind of proved that Rangers have had much the same kind of year as Senegal. The USA beating Bosnia 2-0 in the San Francisco Bay Area near San Jose. Big Katic playing, Tillman scoring a fantastic free kick. Gio Reyna coming on at the end. Pochettino, he missed that penalty against us for PSG, didn't he, in the UEFA Cup back quarter of a century ago. The BBC coverage was shite because they're obviously just... Jonathan Pearce is in a tin can somewhere. He's certainly not in the stadium. And it's a monumental moment when it's the hosts. What's his name? Liam McLeod and Faddy, James McFadden, doing the commentary for Mexico. It wasn't Mexico, so it was in the Azteca at night time for Colombia against Uzbekistan. An amazing game. And there's like 75,000 Colombians in the stadium, and they're doing it for some tin can. Somewhere in the States probably that just doesn't give you the atmosphere at all. It was awful. It's terrible for the BBC. It really is. It's really cheap and it's really bad. I cannot get a chance to watch the last episode of Half Man. You know that thing with Billy Elliot in it and the guy for the Baby Reindeer sequel. It's just watching World Cup games all the time. Every 12 years there's a new name, a first-time winner of the World Cup. That's what it averages. There's 8 teams have won the World Cup. It's been going for 96 years. So I think we're overdue. 16 years since Spain become the last name on the World Cup, the last new name to lift the thing. Uruguay and England are the only nations that won it in the 20th century who haven't won it in the 21st century. Off the top of my head, I think that's 20 years. I think is the longest we've gone without a new name. Uruguay won in 1930, Italy in 1934. And then, so it was Uruguay and Italy won the next 38 and then 1950, so 54, West Germany. So that's for 34 to 54. Then I think it's 78, Argentina winning their first World Cup. 98, France winning their first World Cup. I think 20 years is the longest between since we new names being on it until this point. Now we get so it's that was the longest. 98. 2020 that would be. So we're needing a new name. Needing a new name on this trophy at this point in time. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know who's going to win the World Cup. France and Argentina look really good. Spain are coming on to a game. England are still my dark horses. But the whole thing of starting slow and the Germans and the Dutch, they're both out. That's Uruguay out. Hearts winning the SPL, winning the SPFL Premiership would be a little bit like England winning the World Cup. It's a whole lot of 60s and 60s involved as well. But which club is next in line for a first ever Scottish title? Which country is going to win a first ever World Cup? You just, every time you mention the favourites, it's Spain, they won it before. It's France, they won it before. It's Argentina, they're the holders just now. Who's going to win their first Scottish title? Because you've got like 11 clubs, one third Lanark, who are struggling these days. I've been champions of Scotland. You've got third Lanark, Motherwell, Kilmarnock, Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, Aberdeen, Dumbarton, obviously, and then you've got the two for Edinburgh, two from Dundee, and the two Old Firm clubs. That's your champions of Scotland. So who do you think would be next in line to win the Scottish title? The Dutch would be next in line to win the World Cup because they're the only team to have lost the final 3 times and never have won the thing. So it's them, but they're out, as I say. I think it would be. You could say it's Queen's Park. It's a kind of sliding scale of support and what you've done in the past. So in terms of done in the past, Queen's Park have won 10 Scottish Cups. They've still got more Scottish Cups outside of anybody other than Rangers and Celtic. So they're really due to win, and it'd be sensational if Queen's Park could get their act together again, get a bit more money into them, and they become this third force in Scottish football. That would be tremendous for the neutral, of which there are none. But in terms of support's died a death, obviously, over the centuries. I think you're looking at kind of Dunfermline Dunfermline maybe the biggest supported club in Scotland who've never been champions of Scotland. I think the 3 clubs would be Dunfermline, St Mirren, and Falkirk. Dunfermline and Falkirk, big rivals, but they've got a couple, 2 Scottish Cups each. But St Mirren, I think, have got the League Cups as well, and a couple of recent League Cups, back to '87 for the Scottish Cup, then back to the '50s for the Scottish Cup. Maybe not as big a support as Dunfermline or whatever these days, but there's certainly, I think the Buddies would be the next in line to win the Scottish League if it's going to somebody who you think deserves it, whatever that means. They'd be the next ones. And the World Cup, I said, it should be the Dutch, but they're out. Belgium was here the other night. I hadn't thought about it. I was hearing this. Their game against Senegal the other night. It's 15 times they've qualified for the World Cup. It's the most any team has qualified for the World Cup and not won the thing. Well, Scotland have qualified for the most World Cups and not got out the first round. Belgium are the one that's qualified for it most times and not won it. Haven't been in semi. They've never actually been to the final. The Belgians only been to one final ever, the 1980 European Championship final. Lost to 2 Horst Rubesch goals in Rome. They lost that final 2-1. I remember that. I remember watching that as a kid. I think that was when I fell in love with the Germans. But they've never been to the final of the World Cup. And for me, it's about the continent more than anything else now. It's becoming about the continent. Which continent deserves to win the World Cup more than any other? Which continent should be on the roster next? And it has to be Africa. It has to be Africa, and Morocco are their best representatives. So maybe they won't go away, Morocco. I thought they might crash and burn this World Cup. The last one, it was a kind of Muslim country they were in, so it's the environment suited them, and they just had one of those one-off runs, like South Korea back in 2002, Japan 2002, and I don't think they've ever won a knockout game in the World Cup since then. Maybe Japan ever, but they faded away. I don't think Japan are coming round again. I thought it'd be the same thing. Turkey 2002 as well, finished in third and never did anything else. But no, Morocco, they've won their knockout game. They're looking good. They're looking good for this World Cup. I don't know if they're going to win it though, but that's who it should be. Next, as far as I'm concerned, I think Scotland have got rid of the best Scotland manager ever. The fans, the media have got rid of him. The best Scotland manager ever, because he didn't get us further than ever, which seems wrong. He got us to the furthest extent we have ever been, and he did it more often than anybody else. But away he goes because he knows that he's not wanted anymore. Whereas at Rangers, we've got the manager responsible for the greatest title challenge in the last 40 years, and it failed. Hearts didn't win the league last season for various reasons, but we want him. We've got him. We're quite happy with him. So Something about this summer is obviously going to go is hopefully going to be pleasing for Rangers supporters anyway, if not Rangers supporters who support Scotland. That'll do for me, folks. Sorry, it's a really long one. Maybe it's a bit ranty and ravey. I just get stuff to get off my system. Just wanted to touch base with you teddy bears. Not just a little update on the teddy bears. We'll get right into it once the World Cup's over. I'll have another couple of World Cup pods, I would imagine, when I come back. But funnily enough, strangely enough, would you believe this? They changed the licensing laws in England so you can drink to 5 o'clock on Monday morning, is it? And I'm actually heading down to England tomorrow. Heading down to England for a week tomorrow. It's purely coincidental. It's the start of my proper old summer holidays, folks. I'll be having another one later on this summer, but I'll not be in touch for a week. So enjoy that week, or probably a couple of weeks before I'm back in touch with you. I've certainly given you plenty to get into if you're desperate for my patter, but continue to do like the rest of us and ignore. Just enjoy the beautiful game and enjoy this cavalcade of football. And if you're a blue nose, it's really nice watching all this international football and knowing that Rangers are getting themselves sorted out behind the scenes. Have a nice couple of weeks, folks. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for your time.